I think it is making a very, very big difference. Clearly, for all of us, the effectiveness of the things that government do are going to be hugely influential in terms of how things play out here. Like most banks, we took some quite big impairment charges in the first quarter. The second quarter, they reduced about a third, and actually in the third quarter, they've reduced again by about a third. But it is clearly extremely helpful to have government that is supporting businesses in this period, and hopefully that will maintain through the next 2 or 3 quarters as we get back to something closer to normality.
Andy, when it comes to confidence, the type of trading environment we've seen on markets and for the banks, it's been very different every quarter this year. Second quarter stood out because of the huge trading revenues that many of the big banks witnessed, that bounce back in confidence. The third quarter, clearly we've seen the reopening of economies, but now the fourth quarter, as we see lockdowns take place across some major economies in Europe, that's damaged confidence on the markets. What do you think the final stretch of this year will look like?
Well, I think one of the things to note for us is that a very small proportion of our business actually is in the Western markets, which are the ones that are struggling with lockdowns. The bigger proportion of our business is in Asia, and within that, actually in particular in Northern Asia, we are seeing much more confidence, much more momentum returning within the markets there. So overall, we actually feel, I think, probably a little bit better than those who are based maybe in sort of London or New York at this point in time. We have got momentum in Hong Kong, we've got momentum in China, we've got momentum in Korea, we've got momentum in Taiwan. So we are hoping that the presence we have got will actually help us to be coming out of this slightly earlier, maybe, than some will find.
It's interesting to hear you draw that distinction between the markets, and we're hearing that across in other investment circles too, about the strength across the Asian corridor. But all along during this crisis, we've seen investors try to reposition around what they're seeing as coronavirus hotspots, whether it's been in Asia or in the United States, now here in Europe. So how much confidence do you have as these waves continue to hit various places around the globe?
Well, I think it's difficult for any of us to be totally confident, isn't it? All that we can say is that in those Northern Asia markets, the progress does seem to be progressively positive. We are seeing that in many of the stats in our business, the volumes picking up, the loan loss rates coming down. Hopefully the Southern Asian markets will sort of follow through on that shortly after. So I think confidence is difficult, but I think the direction of travel at the moment certainly looks positive, and hopefully, if we're talking in a year's time, we'll be in a somewhat different position by then.
Andy, you've made some statements today around the dividend. I was just talking about Credit Suisse making some strong ones about resuming their payout, but also on the share buyback front. Just remind us where you're at with the dividend and also share buybacks.
Yes, so we stopped the dividend and the then share buyback programme earlier this year, following the discussions with the regulators. We are now in a situation where our capital is actually above the range that we would normally set ourselves in a sort of business as usual situation. So we said today that when we close the year, we will reconsider shareholder returns generally. Obviously, that will be in consultation with the regulators, but I would hope that if we're still sitting with capital that is above our ranges, that we will be able to make some return at that point in time. We've obviously got another couple of months to go and see how macro plays out. We've obviously got discussions with the regulators, but we would be hopeful that that is how it will play out.